everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jodi Middendorf, and on my channel I talk about the Peace Corps. I give advice and tell you things that you might want to know before you join the Peace Corps. Sometimes I also share stories. Today I'm talking about what it's like to be a female in the Peace Corps. So maybe you've never thought about what it would be like to be a woman in the Peace Corps, or maybe, you have, and I'm here today to tell you about the differences that I've seen between myself and my male friends that were also in the Peace Corps that I hung out with. And before I get started, I want to point out a few things, and one of them is that, of course, everybody in the world is different. Every place in the world is different, has a little bit different culture, and I'm not trying to say that these things are good or that they're bad. I am simply trying to convey what it was like for me so that other people are more prepared when they go into the Peace Corps. If you're a female, or if you know somebody who's a female who's going into the Peace Corps, these are things that you might want to share with them so that they're more aware of, I guess, what somebody else, being me, experienced and what they might experience as well. So I'm going to split this up, and I'm going to start with sharing three challenges, maybe not challenges, but more difficult things that I guess experienced as a woman in the Peace Corps, and then I'm going to tell three encouraging or inspiring things for the women going out into the Peace Corps. I guess just to share the flip side of, the rewarding things that happened to me. So first of all, one of the challenges that I experienced as a woman in the Peace Corps is that I was expected to be similar to other women in the culture, and where I was staying, the women definitely knew how to cook and definitely knew how to clean well. Everybody, it's not like men didn't cook or clean, but it was very shocking to people when I would say I didn't know how to cook or I didn't know how to clean something, whereas my male counterpart friends that were Peace Corps volunteers, they wouldn't get maybe as much slack for this. So I didn't know how to butcher a chicken, I didn't know how to cook rice well. I can cook okay in America, I'm not great, I don't love it, but going somewhere where they cook different foods and have different ways of cooking without a stove or without a microwave. Also, the flip side, everything has a flip side. I learned how to cook and clean everything very well. I learned how to clean my laundry without a wash machine. I learned how to conserve water while doing my dishes because I was living in a desert. I learned a lot from it as well. But it was hard at first being like, feeling silly for not knowing what all the other people like me knew. So the second thing that was difficult as a woman in the Peace Corps was having your period. Obviously, the male Peace Corps volunteers didn't necessarily deal with this. Tampons were hard to come by where I was living. Sometimes I could find them, sometimes I couldn't, and pads were usually easy to come by, but the means of transportation that I was using when I had to travel, pads weren't ideal. Finding feminine hygiene products can be difficult. I brought a Diva cup because I had anticipated that, but then again, I would travel sometimes 10 hours, sometimes 20 hours to get to my banking town, and there weren't bathrooms along the way. There was no place to clean a Diva cup, so imagine leaving that, 10 hours is a long time for a Diva cup, or longer even, and so you'd kind of have to work around things, and you kind of got to be open with people. If you're in a vehicle and you need to stop because you're having a period problem, you have to be able to tell this driver that's probably a male and probably isn't used to women talking about their periods. You have to, I would have to say, hey, I have my period, I need to stop, I'm gonna have an issue. And so that was kind of difficult at first, especially because you don't have the language necessarily to talk about periods. It's not something that Peace Corps is like, you need to know how to talk about periods, which maybe, if you're going into the Peace Corps, when you're learning language, you could ask about vocabulary, about things like that. But not only was it hard to come by feminine hygiene products and to just stay clean during your period in general, I also was low on iron often. Not that I was getting tested, but I could kind of feel that, my body was tired, and when I had my period, I just had no energy, and I'm assuming, that was lack of iron. And I didn't eat a lot of red meat because meat was expensive. I was eating a lot of beans and chicken and fish because that's what they had where I was living. They had red meat, but it's more expensive. My nutrition in general wasn't as good in the Peace Corps as it is at home. Ask advice from other volunteers that were in the same location as you, because they're gonna know what's best and what's most helpful where you are. They've already, been doing it for maybe a year or two, and just reach out to them for advice. I could make a video detailing periods and period advice for the Peace Corps. I guess if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments, and if there's enough interest, I'll make that video. The third challenge that I faced as a woman in the Peace Corps was extra attention to myself. When I'd walk down the street, I stood out because I looked different than the people in the town that I was living in. You're the new teacher, the foreign person that people want to get to know, and your students get really excited and they want to come see your house and ask you a bunch of questions. And it's not all bad. It's not always bad attention or things that I didn't like, but it would be overwhelming because people are curious, they want to learn, and it's great, but it's something that can be a challenge. So now I'm going to talk about more happy things, more encouraging things about being a woman in the Peace Corps, and this really means a lot to me, and I'm excited to share some of these things, so let's get right into it. A great thing about being a woman in the Peace Corps is that older women, I'm talking not necessarily that old, but older than myself, they tend to want to look out for me, and they feel like, they want to take me under their wing and show me, they've been a woman there their whole lives, and they're like, this is what you can do, this is what you tell people in this situation. And I felt like I had people kind of gathering around me and trying to help me out and mother me more than the male Peace Corps volunteers necessarily. Not that they don't reach out and help out the male volunteers, but it just seemed different in my eyes. I also had an easy time connecting with local women in general, not necessarily just older people, but younger people too. I know that younger girls would like to come and hang out with me and talk to me a lot, and I wasn't seen as, I guess, intimidating to them as maybe a male volunteer. And that might be just part of the culture of where I was living, but it was special to have young girls come up to me and look at me as their role model, and I could be, the woman role model in their life that speaks another language, so they think, oh, I could learn English too, I could learn another language because I speak Malagasy. I could be the role model that went to school, I'm teaching, I try to do good things, and I speak up for myself. I don't let other people tell me, this is what's gonna happen. And younger girls in town would come to me for advice about things, anything from relationship advice, or not even necessarily advice, I guess. They would come to me to ask, what do people in America do in this situation? What do you do in this situation? And I got to share new perspectives and new ideas of what it is like to be a woman in another place in the world. And I don't think that being a woman in a different place in the world is better than being a woman in Madagascar. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's good for people to learn another perspective, and I loved being the person that shared with these young girls, how cool it was to go to school, and different women that I know that drive vehicles. And so that's something that as a woman volunteer that you can really do, and reach out and connect with people in that way more than the male Peace Corps volunteers. The third thing that I really enjoyed about being a woman volunteer in the Peace Corps is that it was completely, I guess where I live, this is specific maybe to where I lived and the culture that I was in, but it was completely normal for me to go over to my friend's house and have a sleepover. I could go over to one of my girlfriend's houses and hang out and have dinner and spend the night. And it's hard sometimes living by yourself in a foreign country and spending every single evening alone in your house, and it's nice to be able to go to somebody's house and have sleepovers. And I guess just as a woman, that was more normalized where I was living. Not that a male couldn't do that, but that was something that I really enjoyed. I loved having sleepovers and hanging out with people and having dinner and playing games at night and having good long conversations and just having sleepovers when I was younger. And take advantage of that, I guess, if you're a female going to a place where that's also normalized. I guess it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man going into the Peace Corps, you can make great things out of any of the situations. And if you are having struggles or challenges due to your gender where you're living, definitely reach out to other people in your area that have been there for a while and ask them how they've dealt with things. If you have any other specific questions about being a woman in the Peace Corps, definitely ask in the comments below, and I'll try to respond to that or make another video. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It does mean a lot to me, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!